Okay, so you're ready to really dig in and refine your kicking techniques. We're going deep on solo training for martial arts today, focusing on those kicks.
Yeah, we're going to strip away all the fluff and get straight to the core stuff that you can actually use to improve. No wasted time, just practical knowledge.
Exactly. And to guide us, we've got this awesome resource, Solo Training, the Martial Artist Guide to Training Alone, written by someone who's been in the martial arts world since, get this, 1965.
Yeah.
Multiple black belts, decades of experience. Is like getting advice straight from the source.
Absolutely. This isn't some theoretical stuff. It's battle-tested advice from someone who's walked the walk.
So our mission, if you choose to accept it, is to pull out those golden nuggets from this guide. We'll look at the author's personal journey and those kick-boosting solo training techniques he swears by. By the end of this, you'll be ready to add some serious firepower to your kicks, starting with your very next solo session.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so to kick things off, no pun intended, where did this whole solo training emphasis even come from for the author? What's the backstory there?
Well, it's actually a pretty interesting story. It all started with a setback. Back in '65, he was into powerlifting and ended up with a spinal injury.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty serious stuff. Doctors told him to, take it easy, suggested things like, I kid you not, checkers.
Checkers. Can you imagine?
Right. But this guy was active. He wasn't going to just sit around, so he looked to martial arts, maybe thinking it'd be a bit easier on his back, a way to stay active and burn some calories.
So, a little bit of wishful thinking there.
Maybe a bit, but as you might guess, reality hit pretty quickly. In his second karate class, they started working on the front kick, and boom, that old injury flared up, tained the whole 9 yards. And to make matters worse, he had all these adhesions from the injury that were severely limiting how high he could even lift his leg.
Ouch, that's a tough break.
Yeah.
What kept him going? Most people would just call it quits right there.
And that's where his resilience shines through. Instead of giving up, he went home and started training on his own. He'd use a kitchen chair for support and just slowly swing his leg forward and back. He talks about how painful it was, but he stuck with it, gradually increasing the height of his kicks, front and rear.
Wow, that's dedication. Did it work?
It absolutely did. He kept going to his regular classes, learning the curriculum, but it was that consistent solo practice that helped him overcome those limitations. Within weeks, he was keeping up with everyone else in his class when it came to kicking.
That's amazing.
Right. That experience really solidified his belief in the power of solo training. It wasn't just a temporary fix, it became a core principle.
And that's why he's such a big proponent of it, right?
Exactly. He talks about always encouraging his own students to incorporate solo training into their routines. And the funny thing is, he could tell right away who was actually doing it. The ones who did showed huge improvement in their techniques, their sparring, even in things like jiu-jitsu and aren't totally different martial arts.
So it wasn't just about the kicks themselves. It was about improving their overall martial arts skill set.
Yeah, totally. He even says it straight up. Make solo training part of your regular practice. He lists all these benefits like deeper understanding of the concepts, heightened awareness of your strengths and weaknesses, and actually seeing real progress even with just a few minutes a week.
Okay, so we're convinced on the why. Now let's talk about the how.
Yeah.
What are some of the fundamental ideas he wants us to keep in mind when it comes to kicking?
One of the first things he points out is that there's not one correct way to do those basic kicks, like roundhouse, side kick, front kick, back kick. He acknowledges that there are wrong ways, bad balance, bad technique, but within that, there's room for variation.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. He uses the front kick as an example. It's often the first one you learn, but it's not necessarily the easiest to really master. And he points out the difference between the front thrust kick, which is more about pushing and keeping your distance, and the front snap kick, which is all about that quick impact.
Makes sense. Okay, so enough theory. Let's get into the actual exercises. What does he recommend we start with to improve our kicks?
He starts with dynamic leg stretching. Now, this isn't just standing there and holding a stretch. It's about actively moving your leg through its range of motion. He emphasizes going at a moderate pace, not too slow, not too fast. The goal is to gradually increase the height of those swings as you go.
Okay, controlled movement, gradually building flexibility. What are some of the dynamic stretches he suggests?
He has three main ones. For the front, you just hold onto something for support and swing that straight leg forward and up. Do 10 reps on each leg. For the side kick, you face your support, swing your leg out to the side, make sure your foot's in the right position. Again, 10 reps each leg. And for the rear curl, you're facing your support, swing your leg back. And at the top of the swing, you curl your lower leg in towards your butt, almost like you're trying to kick yourself. 10 reps each leg.
Simple and effective.
Yeah.
What's next in his solo training arsenal?
Next up is the kneeling front kick. This one's a bit different because you start on your knees, sitting back on your heels. He even says some people might have trouble sitting back all the way at first. The point here is to build power from that lower grounded position.
Interesting. How do you actually do it?
So you start by powerfully thrusting your right leg forward while throwing a left reverse punch at the same time. Then, as you bring that punch back, you do a left front kick, trying to get it as high as possible. But here's the catch. You only lift your hips off your right heel just enough to let your foot clear the floor.
Okay, that's challenging. What about the touchback kick? He mentions being careful with the standing version.
Yeah, he actually recommends against doing the standing touchback kick because it can put a lot of strain on your supporting leg, and if you're not careful, you could accidentally whack a partner. Instead, he focuses on the lead leg touchback kick. You'll want to do this in front of a mirror. You stand with your left foot forward and then quickly snap your body to the right, angling down as you reach for the floor with your right hand. As your hand touches down, you kick back with your left leg, looking over your shoulder to see that foot in the mirror.
Okay, so it's about using the mirror for feedback on your form. Now, what about the round knee variations? The one where you simulate grabbing someone sounds interesting.
Yeah, these are all about developing that round knee strike for close quarter combat. For the air reps, you're basically pretending to grab behind someone's neck, pulling them in as you drive your knee up in a roundhouse motion. 3 sets of 15 reps on each knee. For the heavy bag variation, you actually grab the bag and pull it in as you knee it. This one really emphasizes that hip rotation, which is crucial for power. Again, 3 sets of 15 reps per knee.
Makes sense. Now, what about kicking with the thigh? That's not something you hear about every day.
He calls this one a secret weapon for close-range fighting, especially in a clinch. The force is circular, and you're using your thigh anywhere from just above the knee to mid-thigh. The motion's similar to a round knee. He says it's especially effective when you and your opponent are like 12 inches apart and moving towards each other.
That's interesting. It's a very specific scenario. Now, he also talks about combining kicks. What's the point of that?
It's all about messing with your opponent's timing and expectations. It's about transitioning smoothly from one type of kick to another. Like, he gives an example of a sacrifice roundhouse that flows into a side kick, and even then, being ready to throw another roundhouse if they block that second kick. The idea is that those changes in angle, going from circular to linear and back again, can really throw someone off.
Keeps them guessing. Now, flip-out kicks. That sounds pretty fancy.
It's a variation on the roundhouse. With a flip-out kick, your foot travels in a circular path, and you hit with the outside edge of your foot, the little toe side. So from your stance, left leg forward, you twist your upper body to the right and kind of flip out that lower leg. What's cool about this kick is that your upper leg naturally protects your groin, unlike a regular roundhouse.
Interesting. So it's more concealed, and it offers some protection, too. What about the groin slap with a hook? That sounds pretty direct.
Yeah, it's a quick, unexpected attack to a very vulnerable target. You can do it with either your front or rear foot, front being faster, rear having more power. Because your leg's already bent in your stance, you don't need much of a chamber. If they're in range, you just snap that foot up. If they're a little out of reach, you can use a replacement step, bringing that back foot up to your front heel to close the distance before you strike.
Yikes.
Oh.
Okay, next up, he talks about a stomp kick variation for knee destruction. That sounds intense.
Yeah, this is a serious technique, definitely not for casual sparring. He presents it as something for self-defense situations only, like if someone's backed against a wall with one leg extended. You scoop your rear foot forward, bring your knee up high, and then slam the bottom of your foot down onto their knee.
Oof, that sounds devastating.
It is, and he emphasizes that it can cause serious injury, so it's only for situations where that level of force is absolutely necessary.
Right, a reminder that martial arts comes with a lot of responsibility. Okay, what about the inside knee strike?
This is for when you're super close to your opponent. You move in tight, wrap your hands around their neck, pull them in, keep your forearms pressed together for protection, stay light on your feet, and then swing that bent leg up and in, targeting their ribs or even the outside of their hips.
So a lot of these techniques are about targeting those vulnerable spots. What about those repetitive kicking drills he talks about? What are those for?
Those drills are all about building that foundation, power, speed, that sharp snap in your kick, and fast retraction. Plus, you're working on shifting your body weight quickly to set up those next kicks. The key here is to keep perfect form the whole time, even when you're getting tired. He suggests doing 3 sets of 60 seconds of continuous kicking with each leg, aiming for 30 to 60 kicks per minute.
Wow, that's a lot of kicks. Okay, what about the last leg exercise? That name alone sounds tough.
This one comes from Ken Shamrock, the UFC fighter. It's all about building insane leg strength and endurance. It's 500 bodyweight squats.
500.
Yep. Now, you don't have to do them all at once. He suggests breaking them up into smaller sets, but still, it's a brutal workout, one he recommends doing only every 2 or 3 weeks.
Definitely sounds like a challenge. Okay, let's talk about refining those kicks.
All right.
What about building strength in the chamber?
This is all about strengthening those hip flexors and core muscles that help you get that fast high chamber for more powerful kicks. One exercise he recommends is the front kick chamber with kick. You can hold on to something for support at first, but eventually you want to do it without help. So you lift your knee into a high chamber, use your hand to pull it even higher, hold it for 10 seconds, then release your hand and do a medium speed front kick as high as you can. Then back to the chamber and repeat.
Okay, I can feel the burn just thinking about it. What about those joint-friendly chambering exercises? That sounds important for longevity.
Absolutely. It's about improving technique, power, and speed without putting too much stress on your joints. He's got a bunch of examples. Front knee chamber, side kick chamber, double side kick chamber, half chambers, tight chambers, even doing those fire hydrant roundhouse and side kick chambers while you're on your hands and knees. He even suggests doing them in a pool for extra resistance.
Oh, the pool idea is good. I like that. What about the upper body? He mentions improving arm position during kicks.
Yeah, he's got some simple but effective tips for keeping those arms in check so they're not flailing all over the place. One is to just grab your shirt while you're practicing your kicks. It keeps your hands closer and makes you more aware of what they're doing.
Smart.
He also shares a couple tricks from instructor David Giles. One is to hold a wooden dowel between your palms while you're kicking to stop yourself from using your arms for balance. The other is to use a rope or belt held between your hands, keeping it taut so you don't press your hands together.
Those are clever.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about speed, power, endurance, and accuracy. What are some exercises for developing those crucial kicking attributes?
He lays out a few different drills. One is the 8 2-minute rounds, 4 kicks drill. It's tough. You cycle through the 4 basic kicks, front, round, side, and back for 2-minute rounds, 8 rounds total. It's great for conditioning and for getting used to using kicks in a sparring context. Then there's kicking balloons. This one's all about accuracy and controlling those angles. You try to keep one balloon in the air using only kicks. Then there's floor bounce kicks. This is about generating power with the second kick in a double kick, like a double side kick. You can bounce a lot of different kicks off the floor to add that extra oomph. And finally, there's fake kicks, that classic feint where you pretend you're going low and then come up high.
Sounds like a well-rounded approach. Now, stance and footwork are key for any kind of striking. What does he emphasize there?
He's not a fan of that deep horse stance you see in a lot of traditional kata. He says it's too slow and immobile for real-life situations. He prefers the basic boxer stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, upper body turned slightly, weight balanced, lead foot pointing towards your opponent.
More practical, more agile. What about footwork drills?
He has a good one called the slide to kick. You start in your stance, slide your lead foot forward about 12 inches, then bring your back foot halfway up and fire off a kick with your lead leg. 3 sets of 10 reps on each side. He also emphasizes the importance of keeping your head level when you're stepping for any kind of strike. It helps transfer that power.
So stability is key. What about this working the asterisk thing?
This is a fun one. You basically make a big asterisk on the floor with tape 4 5-foot strips. This gives you horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines to work with. He gives examples of drills you can do, like evading an attack and countering, doing side steps and kicks, and even side steps with blocks and knee strikes. It's all about being able to move and counter from different angles.
Sounds like a good way to mix things up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there are some common mistakes people make with kicking. What are some of the things he points out?
2 big ones are locking the front knee and keeping the rear foot flat. When you lock that front knee, you restrict your hip motion, which means less power and range. You want to keep a slight bend in that knee. And with the rear foot, if you keep it flat, it stops you from fully rotating your hips. You want to push off the ball of that foot and let your lead foot rotate a bit.
Those small adjustments can make a big difference. Now, what about power in general? How do you build that explosive power?
He talks about half reps and last half reps. You're basically breaking down the kicking motion into 2 parts. With half reps, you're focusing on that initial burst, building explosiveness. Last half reps, you start from the halfway point and focus on the finish, that snapping power. He suggests 3 sets of 10 reps for each half, for each type of kick. He also talks about the importance of being relaxed before you start the kick so you can explode forward like you've been startled.
So it's about harnessing that sudden energy. What about overspeed training for kicks? That sounds kind of advanced.
It is. It's about pushing your neuromuscular system to work faster than it's used to. You can do this by using resistance, like an exercise cord, to help pull your leg through the motion faster. He says it works best with straight line kicks, not so much with circular ones. It's something athletes use, but there's not a lot of scientific research on it yet. He also says to be careful with your elbows, as it can put stress on that joint.
Good to know. Now, what about practicing combinations?
He encourages you to work on those combinations by yourself first, to get the speed, form, and balance down before you try them with a partner. He says to experiment with different combinations and to think about how techniques you might use in a tournament could be adapted for self-defense. And of course, repetition is key. The more you practice, the smoother and more natural those combinations will become.
Muscle memory. Okay, he also mentions a drill called the dirty sock drill. What's that all about?
This one's designed to sharpen those reflexes and improve your punching, striking, and evasion skills. You hang bean-filled socks from the ceiling, or you can use small rocks wrapped in cloth if you want a tougher workout. Then you move around, practicing your strikes and footwork while trying not to get hit by the swinging socks. You can make it harder or easier by changing the spacing between the socks.
Sounds like a fun challenge. Now, he mentions Bruce Lee when he's talking about power.
He uses Bruce Lee's back fist as an example of perfectly combining speed, power, distance, and timing. He talks about that scene in Enter the Dragon where Lee just explodes with that back fist. It's about putting it all together.
A classic example. Now, he also talks about the importance of using combinations in a real fight.
His point is that you can't always rely on one single blow to end a fight. The human body is pretty tough. He gives some crazy examples of people surviving serious injuries and still fighting back. He asks, is your kick more powerful than a bullet? The answer is probably no, so you should always be prepared to hit multiple times.
That's a sobering thought. Now, what about training your other side, your non-dominant leg?
He says it's common to feel awkward when you're using your weaker side, but it's so important to train both sides equally. It helps you understand your strengths and weaknesses on both sides, and it develops a better overall feel for the techniques.
Makes sense. You don't want to be one-sided. Now, this next one might be a bit controversial. Hit him when he is down. What are his thoughts on ground fighting?
He acknowledges that there's sometimes a negative view of kicking someone when they're down. But for self-defense, you need to be prepared for anything, and that includes ground fighting. He suggests incorporating shadow sparring, where you visualize taking someone down and then attacking them on the ground with different kicks and punches. He also recommends adding takedowns and finishing strikes to your drills, and even using a lying heavy bag to practice those ground techniques.
Okay, so it's about being prepared, just in case. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about the mental side of things. He talks about conditioning to take a blow, specifically the mental aspect.
He separates the physical aspect, which is about being able to withstand impact, from the mental aspect, which is about accepting that you might get hit and not freaking out about it. He talks about how new students often flinch at even the lightest touch, but over time, they get used to it mentally.
Right, you have to overcome that initial fear. He also has a section on neck conditioning. That seems often overlooked.
He stresses that it's so important, especially for close-range combat where you might end up in a clinch or get headbutted. A strong neck helps you maintain your posture and avoid getting injured. He recommends specific exercises to strengthen the front, back, and sides of your neck.
Good advice. Now, what about those headbutts?
He suggests practicing on a heavy bag, maybe a mannequin type if you have one. He describes different types of headbutts, front, side, rear, and stresses the importance of proper technique. The power comes from your lower back, you keep your neck stiff, and it's more of a controlled bow motion than just whipping your head around. He also says to practice combinations of headbutts.
Interesting. I guess there's an art to it. What about getting up from the ground?
He's big on practicing that because, let's face it, being on the ground is a vulnerable position. He recommends practicing getting up quickly and defensively, using punches, kicks, and blocks as you go, as if someone's coming at you. He also shares a tip from instructor Steve Golden, which is to keep your head out of the way as you get up, twisting your body so your feet are between you and the threat.
Makes sense. Now, slipping punches and kicks, that's a crucial skill.
For that, he recommends a double-end bag, which forces you to react fast. If you don't have one, a heavy bag that swivels can work too. He suggests a drill called work the clock with slipping. You combine footwork on your asterisk with slipping, followed by counters using punches and kicks. He says to really visualize an opponent attacking you and to actively check their free hand as you're dodging.
Okay, a lot to think about there. Now, he also encourages us to experiment.
Oh, absolutely. He says, try everything, find what works for you. Solo training is the perfect time to explore and see what feels natural and effective for your body type and your style.
What about training without gloves or foot protection?
He suggests doing that occasionally, maybe for 5 minutes a couple of times a month. The idea is to get used to the feeling of striking with bare hands and feet, so it's not a shock if you ever have to do it for real.
Preparing for the worst-case scenario. He also mentions drilling in street shoes.
That's about getting used to how different shoes affect your balance and movement. You might have less traction, or your foot might not rotate as easily. It's something to be aware of.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, injuries are an unfortunate reality of training. How does he suggest we deal with them?
He's all about staying positive. Don't dwell on what you can't do. Focus on what you can. If you have a toe injury, work on your hand techniques. The key is to keep a positive mindset and find those areas where you can still make progress.
Don't let it get you down.
Mm-hmm.
He also talks about abdominal training with resistance. What's his approach there?
He shares his own experience using weight plates to add resistance to his crunches. He says to do lower reps with higher intensity, just like you would for other muscle groups. He describes different exercises for upper abs, upper and lower abs together, and side abs.
Okay, a little extra challenge for those core muscles. Now let's talk about the mental game. He calls the mind your best weapon.
He really emphasizes the importance of mental training alongside the physical. He talks about developing your personal training philosophy, using mental imagery, and replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones.
And he starts by talking about the benefits of exercise for your brain.
Yeah, he lists a bunch of them. Mood boost, better self-esteem, clearer thinking, less anger and tension, better blood flow to the brain, maybe even new brain cell growth. Plus, exercise can be like a moving meditation, and it can help you sleep better.
So many reasons to stay active. What about his personal philosophy of training?
He has 3 main principles. First, lots and lots of reps, but not just mindless repetition. You need to be doing drills that have practical applications. Second, don't try to pre-plan every single response to an attack. Focus on a few core responses that you can adapt to different situations. And third, if you're not training, your opponent probably is. Keep that in mind.
That last one is definitely motivating. Now, what about his fighting philosophy?
This gets into some deeper stuff. He talks about the killer instinct and the reality that you might have to use deadly force in a self-defense situation. His philosophy is to use that force if you're attacked with deadly viciousness or if someone innocent is being attacked. He also talks about dealing with intimidating people. Don't focus on their size, focus on their vulnerabilities. Everyone has them.
Those are some heavy topics. Now, what about mental imagery?
He says it's a powerful tool, but it might take some practice. He suggests doing it after you've relaxed. He gives an example from a police officer who used to visualize shooting at people on a bus to practice target acquisition. He also suggests watching people in everyday situations and imagining how you would respond if they attacked you.
Interesting. So it's about making those mental rehearsals as realistic as possible. He even tells us to be Ernest Hemingway when we're describing techniques.
He means you should try to describe those techniques in detail, verbally and in writing. It forces you to really break them down and understand them on a deeper level.
Ah, I see. Now, negative self-talk. That can be a real killer.
He talks about replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones. He gives exercises for identifying those negative beliefs and replacing them with affirmations. You can say them out loud, think them silently, write them down. He even gives lists of affirmations you can use.
So it's about retraining your brain. What about cross-training?
He talks about 2 types: cross-training within your art and cross-training outside of your art. Within your art, he suggests things like focusing on boxing for a session, doing slow motion practice, combining different techniques, and setting up stations where you rotate through different activities. Outside of your art, he recommends things like gardening, hiking, swimming, anything that gets you moving in different ways.
Keeps things fresh. Now, how does he suggest structuring your solo training?
He likes to do short, intense 30-minute sessions, but he says any amount of training is better than none. He also talks about finding your target heart rate for aerobic training. He gives a formula for estimating your maximum heart rate and explains how to find your target zone.
Good info. Now, does he give any specific workout examples?
He does. He has a heavy bag workout for legs, one for elbows and knees, a bodyweight cardio workout, and a drill where you alternate between hitting the bag and hitting the air. He also has a workout for practicing kata.
That's awesome. Lots of great stuff to try out. So, to wrap things up for our listener, what's the key message here?
Solo training is essential for improving your kicking techniques, your overall fitness, and your mental toughness. It's about finding what works for you, experimenting, and staying consistent.
Exactly. Your challenge this week is to pick one or two techniques from this episode and actually try them out. And don't forget about the mental side of things. Think about your training philosophy and how you can use mental imagery to your advantage.
And remember, even when you're taking a break, someone else might be out there training. Use that as motivation to keep pushing yourself and to never stop learning.
So stay sharp, train hard, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.